I'm Gabe, and I'm Elevated Daily. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to go ahead and continue our reviews with Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2. This is right where we were expected to pick up last week, and we're ready for it. We're going to go ahead and see what fate awaits number one. All right, if you like what you're watching, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. All right, we see Una as a young little girl. She's got a broken arm, it looks like, and she obviously cannot go to the doctor due to her affliction, having genetic modifications put in since birth. We see her in San Francisco, back on Earth, looking out the window, a little distraught, trying to await her fate. She's got to go ahead and get her charges written. The captain's there advising her of her charges. Telling her that they're willing to give her a dishonorable discharge and exile, with no prison time as long as she goes ahead and pleads guilty. What is that? That's whack. That's what that is. She doesn't want to take that, and her counselor, of course, looks right at her and is like, "That's a great deal." Captain gets up and says, "That's the best you're gonna get. That's all we're gonna offer." And Una, fairly mind you, asks, "How is he supposed to represent me if he works for you?" Obviously, Captain has something to say because that's not her problem, and she bounces. What are we going to say about that? That's just whack. But, Una's got this, hopefully. We have Captain Pike on Illyria trying to go ahead and seek counsel for Una. You know, he just needs help, and he's hoping somebody on her world, that knows the laws, can possibly fight for her. Someone's got, a bone in the battle, if you would. So he goes to her. She does not want to see him. He is, on the couch, and he's almost passing out, and the receptionist, she at that point gets up, runs, and they let him in. You can see Captain Pike was on his last leg when he walks in, just barely hanging on. And he's talking to the counselor, Nira Katul. Apparently, she's a friend of Una's back from when they grew up together. So he's talking to her, explaining the case, and she's advising, what do I got to do with this? She's no friend of mine. And he pulls Captain Pike. He's explaining the situation, and he's ready to go ahead and walk out. He's ready to give up, and he turns around one more time because he catches the fact that the counselor says, "I know, I was monitoring the case." And he's like, "Really? What were you monitoring the case for if you didn't have any interest in it?" And she's like, I always kind of, keep my eye out and keep my ear to the ground for my clients. He's like, "All right, I gotcha." And we have Una awaiting her counselor, and first thing the counselor says is, "I am not here for a reunion." And Una is like, "Of course not. After 25 years, you're ready for an I told you so." She goes ahead and tells her, explain the situation, and Una tells her, up until recently, Starfleet didn't even care what was going on. They had no questions. It was nothing. Then they found out, and all of a sudden now they are really unhappy about everything. You can see the counselor has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder, with her friend bouncing on her and never giving her an explanation, apparently. Tells her friend, tells Una, "Take your licks and go home." And Una's like, "No, I didn't stand up for myself before, and I'm going to stand up for myself now." We get Captain Batal storming into Captain Pike's quarters, and she is furious. She's like, "Dude, she turned down the plea deal. That was her best deal. I called in all my shots and favors for that." And Captain Pike just stares at her, just bitter. He's like, "Una doesn't belong in jail. Number one belongs by my side." And tells him, "I don't make the laws. I'm just doing my job." And, Captain Pike, being Captain Pike, of course, advises, "What if the laws are wrong?" Captain Patel, she looks at him, but she doesn't make that call. And she tells him, "Well, since Una went ahead and turned down my deal, my boss, the judge advocate, he's looking into this, and now he wants to go ahead and, see what he can do to Una because he's trying to apparently, ruin her life." Captain doesn't know what to say to that. Batal walks out, says, see you in court." Captain Batal is no longer in charge. She's now got a partner, Vice Admiral Pasak. And he is now the main prosecutor, and he is not looking to go ahead and plead with Una. He is looking to give her the maximum. So Captain Patel has new paperwork, and she goes ahead and reads the charges and advises that they are looking for a dishonorable dismissal. Not only that, but they want to go ahead and give her 20 years in prison for sedition. 20 years for lying. Una is livid. This is what you get for lying on an application. Una wants to take the stand. The counselor's like, nah, not a good idea. They'll destroy you, they'll tear you down, and then they will also bring down your friends. You don't want that. The counselor Una's quarters, thinking, that'll go ahead and give her some inspiration. Luan advises her that, she may be able to go ahead and help her out with the defense, some fruit of the poisonous tree type stuff. She's going to go ahead and investigate by himself, trying to get his thoughts together. And Patel walks in and just kind of interrupts him and sits with him. She's friendly with him and all. And, she starts talking to him. And Pike is like, I want to go ahead and take the stand. I want to speak on Una's behalf. And she says, I get it. And she asks him, well, how did you two meet? Story. And then she's like, oh, that's cool. Smiling and all that. And he's having a great time laughing. When did you first learn that your first officer was an Illyrian? That knocks the smile right off his face. And she shows him how easy it is going to be to turn his statement against him and turn the whole case and make it about him versus her. He finally realizes how much Patel's been trying to protect him. And, she is trying to help Una in her way. Mbenga, chilling, having a drink in the lounge, and they go ahead and Ortegas is making fun of Spock as they notice Spock and the Admiral having a conversation. And Ortegas is talking her trash about, they're uptight and, having an uptight conversation with them. Well, in her mind to the doctor. Doctor's looking at her and he tells her, you don't see it, do you? And she's like, see what? And he's like, look at their body language. It says everything. Those two hate each other. She's like, nah, I don't get that. I don't see that at all. And all of a sudden, Spock just stands up, fixes his shirt, walks right towards them, and they're like, oh my God. And then he apologizes to them. Sorry for that outburst. Out of all my mom's associates, he bugs me the most. And he walks off, and they start cracking up. They can't believe what just happened. But yeah, that was a Vulcan outburst, and they got to experience that. All right, so Luan's trying to go ahead and get Uhura to help her, sift through some of the files and some of the personal entries. And Uhura's like, no, not going to do that. Don't see how helping you, break a law is going to help anybody. So, no. Court's now in session. We go ahead and see Una getting the charges read against her, sedition and all that fun. Una pleads guilty. And we have Captain Batal calling up her first witness, being Admiral April. And Admiral April comes up to the stands, and she's asking him what his relationship with Una is. And he tells her, he's the one that sponsored her to initially get into Starfleet, and that he does have an investment in her career. And Captain asks, what do you mean you have an investment? And he's like, I believe in her. She's a commendable officer. He's always had her back. So the captain asked the Admiral, if you had known Una was modified, would you had went ahead and vouched for her to come into Starfleet? And he's like, she's a very commendable officer, and he's reading off, a couple of her, her positives, and the captain's like, nah, that's not what I asked. Admiral's like, no. And you can see Pasalk's like, yeah. All his Vulcan energy. And you see the crew is just a little bit taken back, a little devastated right there. They didn't think the Admiral was going to say that. And it cuts Una, clearly. You could see that it cuts her. And the defense comes out swinging. She starts asking the Admiral about Starfleet regulations pertaining to genetic modifications. And he lists them off, and, and she advises, she kind of states how the Admiral, wouldn't want to break protocol. And the Admiral states, this is not personal. And the defense, of course it's not. It's the law. The counselor then asks the Admiral, can you explain General Order 1? Which we all know is, of course, being Star Trek fan, is no interference of any pre-warp civilizations. Can't mess around. The defense goes ahead and lists off a couple of missions where it looks like the admiral, when he was a captain, skirted this. Made some choices on the move. And the admiral says, that was different. It looks like the argument's making the captain a little bit uncomfortable as well as the crew. The defense hits back and says, look, it looks like captains of the ship seem to go ahead and make up when the rules apply. Pick and choose which regulations, can bend and break. And then the admiral asks coolly, is there a question, counselor? And she asks, so captains can pick and choose when to break protocol. And you can do it and you're held a hero. But when she does it, she's a criminal. Is that because you're hiding behind Starfleet regulations? Of course, objection. The judge is like, last time I'm going to say this, girl. That's it. I'm not going to tell you again. And the counselor goes ahead and explains how Illyrians are modified at birth. Some of them beforehand. They don't have any choice in the matter. And, Una didn't have any choice in the matter. And that she's being arrested for the violation of a law. And that Starfleet laws seem kind of flimsy at best. And then the admiral, you could tell he's pissed. He stands straight up and he's like, captains make judgment calls every day to save lives, and that letting Una in would have broken the law. That law is there for a reason. This devastates Una. It devastates Pike and the crew. And then the defense is like, you're a racist. You can't hide behind those laws anymore. We know the real deal. And the crowd goes wild. Prosecution objects. The judges are like, whoa, you can't be doing that. The Admiral's not on trial. Starfleet's not on trial. What is going on? And Uhura is like, WTF. Did we just watch the defense try to indict the Admiral? And Spock is like, yeah. You can see the rest of the crew was like, and Pike gets up, and you could tell he's like, yeah, I messed up. And he is clearly waiting for his ass to be chewed. What the heck? You're supposed to be defending me. Not attacking Starfleet. Not attacking the Admiral. Dude was my homie. And Counselor's like, why not? Why are you protecting them? What are they doing to protect you? They're out to destroy you. We finally have a platform where we could sit and we can bring attention to this issue. And Una's like, what? Is that all you're trying to do? Get your soapbox. You're not here to defend me. You're just here to help you and go ahead and push your politics. And then the counselor's like, what are you talking about? You've left people behind. And you kind of see what the counselor's gripe is now, why she's got this chip on her shoulder with Una. Apparently, she was left behind. All right, so this is after that initial mess. The Captain Pike and Admiral March are in the captain's quarters, and Admiral March is not happy. He's telling Captain Pike how he had a long list of things that he was going to say on behalf of Commander Una, and it kind of got torpedoed. The defense came out swinging, and with that line of questioning coming out against Starfleet. And the captain's like, I know, the lawyer was my idea. He's pouring a drink and offering it to the Admiral, and the Admiral's just looking at him. And you can see he's disgusted, and he just walks out. And Captain Pike is just left there holding a drink, pondering if he just burned a bridge. The crew all get their turn up at the stand. Mbenga, Spock, Luan. They get to go ahead and explain, as a character witness, why they look up to Una. And they're all giving their thing. Luan explains how Una rescued her, from the Gorn attacks and sponsored her with Starfleet. And she wouldn't be the officer she is today without Una. Spock, gives his statement, and then kind of he does feel that she has been hiding something this whole time. And the whole crowd, everyone's like, what? And they're all intrigued by this. And he turns and tells the defense that he feels Una's been hiding an affinity for Gilbert and Sullivan musicals. Everybody just cracks up because that's Spock getting vulgar in court, and everybody's laughing. Even Basalt's a little taken back by it. The captain then asks Spock, if it would be logical, since she broke laws, for her to be punished for the laws that she's broken, her being Una. And Spock is like, yeah, logically, I that would make sense, presumably. He's like, but I don't see why Starfleet would do that. Starfleet's a pretty smart institution. And the captain's like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, you know, with Starfleet, being such an institution craving these people, removing Commander Una would definitely be hurting Starfleet. And, Starfleet being as smart as it is, I don't get why it would hurt itself like that. And she's like, all right, I get that. Luan is talking with the counselor, giving her that Starfleet book of regulations that she requested. And, she tells the counselor that she thinks she may have inadvertently triggered this whole thing with, her anger about being genetically modified with herself, and that she may have, let it come out in her own personal logs. And the counselor lets her know, like, this is not you. You didn't do this. This was somebody else. The counselor goes ahead and calls Una to the stand because, what else do they have to lose? Let's go ahead and get her up there. And, she asks Una, how long have you been with Starfleet? Una lets her know, I've been with Starfleet for 25 years. And then she asks, why would you join, being an Illyrian knowing that you can get yourself in trouble? And Una states, ad astra per aspera, to reach the stars through hardship, she says. It was apparently the original Federation's motto, and it really struck a chord with Una. She figured that she could find salvation through Starfleet. And the court reads out, objection. The childhood is not on trial here. What's going on here? And the defense lets her know, I'm not trying to put the childhood on trial, but I want the court to know what it's like to be an Illyrian. And the court allows it. So the counselor asks Una to kind of tell about her childhood, and Una tells her about when she was injured and she couldn't seek treatment with a normal doctor because of the fact that normal doctors would turn in the Illyrians due to their modifications. So they had to seek special help from doctors or doctors that were friendly to the cause. And the counselor asked if she ever knew anybody that got in trouble because of this. And Una says, yes. When I was younger, around 10, my best friend's cousin's brother broke his arm and sought help. And somehow the neighborhood found out that he had glowing blood and, graffitied all over his house, glower, modder, all that. And eventually the law enforcement came and took his family away, and they were never seen from again. So her and her family lived daily in fear. You see a lot of what she's talking about, and a lot of the story structure kind of, just like Star Trek always does, involves our current political environment and story. So I really like how they include that in today, just like they did in the previous series. It keeps Star Trek Star Trek. It's all about people. Even though it's futuristic, it is about us. Una mentions how segregation became a law, and that her family was able to blend in with the normal people because they didn't have any visual modifications that you could easily detect, like a lot of other families. So they blend in, and they left a lot of their friends, and they left everybody behind. Not just a lot of their friends; they left everybody behind. And that's kind of what the counselor was originally upset for, if you recall. And the counselor asked Una, after all this, you still want to be in Starfleet? And Una doesn't even miss a beat. She says, yes. And the counselor asks, well, how did Starfleet find out? And Una tells them, I did it. I turned myself in. And the counselor asks why. And she says, because I was tired of living a lie. I was tired of being afraid. I wanted my crew to know me for who I was and not be afraid of me. I wanted to stop hiding. She recalls when she was younger, Starfleet came to her planet and visited, and the crew was so diverse. And there's so many different types of people, and they all came together for one cause. And she thought, maybe I can be Starfleet and I can be part of something bigger also. And the counselor asks, this is why you turned yourself in? And Una says, yes. Ad astra per aspera, to reach the stars through hardship. And we get Admiral Pasal, and he is processing Una himself. Trace taps Bollock on the shoulder and is like, I got this. And immediately walks towards Una and says, when did Captain Pike first find out that you were an Illyrian? And she's shocked. The captain's like, oh, and the crew, now we see exactly what Pasalk's intent was the whole time, was to go after the captain, saying it was conspiracy. And he asks her again, how long? And remember, you're under oath. And Una says, not even She doesn't want to, but she tells him, the star date. And Basalt's like, 4 months. Captain Pike knew about this for 4 months, so did the crew of the Enterprise. This is a bigger problem than just Una. This is an entire conspiracy on a starship. Oh, okay. So Basalt's closing argument is completely Vulcan-like. It is emotionless. It says, this whole case is built on emotions. If you look at it logically and legally, she just broke the law, plain and simple. And the defense, she does not. And the defense, she makes a beeline straight to Captain Bollock holding that Starfleet book of regulations, and she asks the captain, "Can you read Regulation 8514?" And the captain begins to read about extraordinary and extreme circumstances. Number one, any person fleeing from persecution, and we recall Una saying that she and her family were persecuted. And then the captain continues reading, or fearing for their life, and we remember Una saying that she feared for her life due to political, religious beliefs and practices, and that's basically the whole gist of this case. Is it not? Her family is hiding and persecuted due to their beliefs and their practices. May 2, seek safety from within Starfleet. Oh, okay. And 3, if they openly reveal themselves to the authorities and by asking may be granted asylum. And we see, again, the defense is showing that Una did meet all this criteria when she came to Captain Pike, and she asked for help, and she wanted to be seen and protected by her crew. And the court ponders on this. And when they return, they come back and they say, the law may be unfair and it may be unjust, but it is the law currently. But this case isn't about the law, so we get that from them. And they say the case is about, the commander and her asking for asylum. And she did follow the proper channels. She met all the criteria, and they granted to her. No charges filed. The charges are dropped, and Una gets the return to duty in the Enterprise. So Una and the counselor's relationship is kind of rekindled. Their friendship. There's a long fight ahead of them still, and they're definitely on the side together now. We see Captain Pike just barely contain excitement when he goes to Una and wraps his arms around her. It's just so funny. It's but it's cute, dude. It's cute. There's no way around it. It's just it's cute. All right, well, thank you again for joining us for the review of Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra per Aspera. Let us know what you thought of it. Let us know what you enjoyed as well, and let us know how you enjoyed our take on it. Let us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Like and subscribe. Leave comments as well. And again, I'm Gabe, and I'm Elevated Daily. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe.